Nobody's talking about the Sony ZV-E10 II for photography right now, and it was released a month ago. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about it only has electronic shutter, right? So is it good enough? Can you use it as a hybrid camera? And specifically, we'll talk about the pros and cons of the photography. This week, I shot a model for a portrait session using the new kit lens along with two full frame prime lenses that I already had for full frame sensors, and I just put on this APS-C camera. So let's have a look and see how it turned out. I'll leave some raw photos from this shoot in the description box below if you want to just download them and play around with them in Lightroom. Also, my preset is only 99 cents right now if you want to go check that out. Quick spoiler alert, if you're buying this camera solely for photography, I would tell you right now that there's better options out there. However, if you're using it as a hybrid camera, because we all know this is an amazing value at $1,000 US for video. If you need it as a hybrid option for maybe photography as well, you might be surprised. So starting with the pros, this APS-C sensor is 26 megapixels, which is plenty good enough to crop in on your images in post, specifically if your composition wasn't right and things like that. So I love that about it. It's now UHS 2 for the card. It shoots 11 frames per second, which is really good in the high plus burst mode, but there is an issue with that. I noticed I got to about 20 images and then the buffer kicked in after about 3 seconds. So you do have to be mindful of that. The next point is that Sony's always updating their autofocus on the newest cameras, and it's really intelligent. It's incredible what it can do. It was always tracking the subject's eye, which I absolutely loved. It can switch between humans and animals and birds, and it also has my favorite tracking method where essentially you find your subject and you half press, you move around for composition, and then you press the shutter button to take the image. Really quick, if you're finding value in this video, it goes a really long way if you could just leave a like. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, and let's dive back in. This camera does shoot in RAW, and it shoots in compressed and lossless compressed as well. All the shots that I did was with lossless compressed. Again, you can download in the description. The next point is that you have way better battery life on this. It's only rated for 610 shots, but I still had battery after shooting 1250 shots of the model. They rate these things like they underrate them a little bit just for some kind of certain testing they do, but it's kind of like an all-day battery for photography, which is really good. The next point I absolutely love, and I think it's a little bit underrated, but this camera sports a new grip, and it's actually like really nice to hold in the hand. Specifically because I already own full frame lenses, I'm able to put them on the E-mount sensor, which I absolutely love. But then on the older camera, it felt awkward in the hand because the grip was so small and you have like a bigger lens, right? But now you have like a nice big grip, and it almost feels like it's naturally meant for some of the full frame primes that I use. This one's simple, but it does have a dedicated photography switch, which is really cool, specifically for memory recall and things like that. So I can go to video and switch back to photography, which is really cool. Then I have my memory recalls already set in there, and I'm not getting it confused with my like 4K 24 frames and 4K 60 frames. So it's nice for organizational purposes. The next point is that photographers often switch between landscape and then portrait mode. When you do this on this camera, it has an updated back screen. So not only does it have great touch functionality, it has better nit, so it's actually like better in direct sunlight situations and things like that. But it also has a smart feature where your touch screen is oriented in portrait mode when you do it that way, or if you go back to landscape, you get all your touch functionality back in your perfect thumb position. The last pro I want to talk about is kind of that electronic shutter. So you can have completely silent, because it's not like a shutter curtain coming over the sensor. You can have completely silent in like maybe you're shooting a wedding and you're in like a quiet environment where you don't want just like the shutter going off constantly. You do have completely silent mode as well if you want. If you follow my channel by now, you know that Artlist has made my life so much easier with all of its assets. And as I grow as a filmmaker, I'm understanding the importance of having good sound effects for my videos. Artlist has a massive library of not only songs but sound effects as well, and when I do my own Foley and capture my own sound effects, it's really time consuming. This month, Artlist is showcasing its Sound of Determination sound effects pack. They had it for the Olympics, and now they have it for the Paralympics that start on August 28th. You can check out all of these sound effects along with thousands of other assets, including video plugins for like whichever software you use, and all of that is just one click away at artlist.io. I'll leave a code in the description below if you want 2 free months off your Artlist subscription. Thanks so much, Artlist, for continuing to sponsor the channel, and let's dive back in. Okay, so now let's dive into the cons of this camera for specifically photography, and they're pretty glaring. So number one is you don't have an EVF on this, which is unfortunate. You can get like the third-party ones, but they're quite expensive, especially for a cheap camera like that. It wouldn't make sense to do that. It's nice that it has that updated back screen. So I did use it and I was completely fine with it, but I often do shoot with that viewfinder, so it's too bad that it didn't have that. The biggest thing about this camera is that it obviously doesn't have a mechanical shutter, and what you're gonna find with that, I guess like the biggest cons with that, is banding in indoor situations. In certain lighting conditions, you're gonna find like these black lines across your screen because your camera is reading out top to bottom, line by line, and unfortunately it's picking up on some of like the frequencies from the lights, so that's unfortunate about it. Next is that you're kind of getting a rolling shutter effect for photography, which sucks, kind of getting the wobblies, so straight lines when you're panning left to right and you have fast moving subjects, they're not going to be like straight captured. They're going to be captured in a way that's kind of like wobbly, which is pretty awkward and kind of a big deal for people who shoot action and wildlife, things like that. I did use this camera for flash photography as well, but there's another downside to electronic shutters and flash. You're capped at 1/30 for your shutter speed, and that makes grabbing motion like a little bit difficult, obviously, like to freeze a frame. However, flashes do freeze a subject, which is really good, but then everything around them is going to kind of be in motion, and you need to be close to the subject if you want to freeze them doing an action at 1/30. So again, that's the max you can do. So to review, electronic shutter sucks for indoor situations, fast moving subjects, and for flash photography. So all in all, is this camera good for photography? Well, I would say if you're a wildlife or sports shooter, then this is actually not the best option, and I would steer clear of it. If you use your camera for more static things like portrait photography or street photography, I definitely think this is gonna do the trick, and I was really happy with the images that came out of it in my portrait shoot. Again, if you're a photographer only, do not buy this camera. This is not the best for you. You could even buy a mechanical shutter ZV-E10, the first version. So I think that would be the better way to go for this. But that being said, this camera is known for its video capabilities and its like cinema quality. It absolutely crushes for that. It's an incredible value. And then if you're a photographer on top of that, so you need some hybrid specs, I think in a lot of cases, this is going to be a great photography camera for many people. With that, I'll let you make your own decision on whether this is great for photography. But for me, it's actually going to be like a perfect camera to travel with. I'm going to Europe in October, and I'm really excited for that. I'm going to be bringing it with me mostly to test the video specs, but there'll be tons of instances when I'm traveling and I want some really nice raw captures, and I think the electronic shutter is going to do just fine for that. If the Sony ZV-E10 II interests you because it's like a compelling camera at a cheap price, check out some of my other videos because I do talk a lot about budget cameras on this channel. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in the next one. Maddie out. Peace.